Hi, I'm Tiffany, and this is Towering TBR. So today is another in our series of bingo card prompt. I will link the previous ones in the cards and in the description box below so you can catch up if you haven't seen them all. But one of the prompts on my bingo card is oldest books on my TBR. And I have 10 books that I added to my TBR back in 2017. And yeah, I'm hoping to get excited all over again for these books that I added a long time ago. If you're new, I have a TBR game I play every month. Started in January, and I have different prompts. Some of these prompts are really to help me target specific books, and others have lots of options, and I'm looking to you to give me some guidance on what I should pick. So I have 10 books that I've had on my TBR for a long time. I will share them, and hopefully you will have lots to say about these. So let's get started. This book has technically been on my TBR since probably since 2003. I read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by her in 2003, and I loved it. It is now my favorite book of all time. And Betty Smith has only written 4 books. This is the only one of her books I haven't read yet. And so it's technically been on my TBR for a really long time, but I only physically added it to Goodreads in 2017. But yeah, she's dead and gone. We're not going to get any more stories, and I've just been putting this off. And I shouldn't, why postpone joy? I'm confident I'm going to really like this story. So this is one of my options. I have Lock-In by John Scalzi. This is a type pandemic book. A lot of people just get sick and feel bad and then recover, but 1% of this population gets a lock-in syndrome, and which I think means that they're like consciousness is aware, but they're basically catatonic, I think. And anyways, this is a science fiction thriller. There starts to be a murder that has something to do with this lock-in condition. And yeah, I think it's just a sci-fi thriller. Other than it being a mass market paperback, which I hate, I have no reason not to read this book. It still sounds really good. And I did check. This came out in 2014, which means it's one of his more recent books. So I think I'll enjoy it. Another book that I added on my TBR so long ago was Leaving Atlanta by Tayari Jones. You might recognize the author's name. She wrote An American Marriage that came out and got a lot of buzz, I think back in 2017, 2018. But this is a fictional story of a true life account of a serial killer targeting Black children. And this is a fictionalized account where we follow 3 children and what happens. The fear that all of these parents are feeling, and the lack of any justice. And it just sounds like it'll be a very compelling book. I have A Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Mara. This, I'm not really sure why I put it on my list way back in the day. This is a war story about 2 people who flee from Chechnya because of what they witnessed the Russians doing. And this is really well regarded on Goodreads. It has a very high rating. But I'm not in the mood for a war story right now. So we'll see when I pick this up. But it will be interesting to learn more about Chechnya, even in a fictionalized version. I have Atonement by Ian McEwan. I know this has a movie, but I have not seen it yet. I always like to read the book first, if possible. But I think the blurb says something like, A little girl witnesses something and doesn't understand the implications of tattling. And I think that sets off a chain of events that she feels like she has to atone for. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, if you've read this, let me know your thoughts on it, because I know a lot of people have read it, but I don't really know how well it's received. I have a memoir called This Boy's Life by Tobias Wolff. This is supposed to be like a darkly funny memoir about this man growing up in, I think, 1950s. Yep. And it's considered a modern classic. So cool. I have another darkly funny memoir. This is called Running with Scissors by Augustin Burroughs. I'm pretty sure his family has contested some of the events in this book, but they were abusive, so it makes sense that they don't want that announced. I don't really know much about this other than it's extremely dark, so not a book I'm in the mood for right now, but I've heard a lot of great stuff about it, so I will get to this at some point. I have The Glorious Heresies. This is an Irish crime novel. A murder happens, and we follow 5 people who are affected by it. I also have the audiobook for this, and yeah, it's told with an Irish accent, which really helps me get a sense of setting, so I like that. So yeah, this has been on my TBR for a long time. I also have Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And this is a literary fiction novel set in Nigeria following a couple over several years. And I think they have to separate for some reason. And so yeah, this is a book I saw a ton on BookTube earlier and still haven't gotten to yet. And lastly, I have Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I love survival stories, and I am interested in picking up some more classics, so I thought that this one would be a good one to go to. I had a lot of classics on my list, quite honestly, but I wanted to focus on the ones that I was more excited about. Tell me, have you read any of these books? And what are your thoughts on them? What is the oldest book on your TBR? I'm curious. Let me know down in the comments below. All right. Thanks for joining me. Bye.